All righty, everybody. We are about ready to get started. Thanks so much for signing in. Want to make sure you can hear me. So I'm using a new mic today. So if you can hear, hop over to the chat and throw into the chat something. Just tell me hi, something like that. Make sure, maybe tell me where you're from, city and state. If you can hear me, oh, there we go. Rob's giving me the thumbs up. So the audio is working. Just to make sure the door's shut really quick, and we're going to jump in. Excellent, thank you, Rob. Yeah, so we're gonna run through this flow. I know that we've got maybe like 20 people signed up to come. We've got 6 people here right now, and really, I schedule these webinars as a forcing function. Long Island, what part of Long Island, John? I have a buddy who is from Montauk. I used to live in Long Beach, Long Island. I lived in, oh man, I'm trying to think of the cities because it was like 20 years ago. Just in that, I think it's what, Nassau County, up by Hofstra University. I used to live right up by there. So excellent. Welcome, welcome. So maybe, yeah, as we just about ready to get started, I didn't build my polls for this session. So I'm going to ask a handful of questions. If you can at least give me some direction. I promise it will help you. It will help us guide this flow. So I want to know 3 things. Number 1, I want to know how big your team is. Number of teammates. Now, I don't care about, and don't put it in yet because I'm going to give you can give me the 2 numbers in a row. I want to know the number of team. I want to know number 2, the number of clients you have. And 3, I want to know what your biggest pain is right now. So those are the 3 things. So if you could jump over, just for those of you who are willing to engage here at the front, I promise I'll make I'll kind of guide our session today based on it. So how many people on your team? That includes agencies, contractors, employees, whatever they are. I don't care. Just so if you've got like 5 people, so for instance, 50. Oh, wow. Excellent, John. Yeah, so number of teammates, number of clients, and your biggest pain, like I'm struggling with recruiting. I'm struggling with retaining my team. I struggle with training them when I onboard them. I struggle with generating new clients. I struggle managing my existing clients. I struggle with, whatever it is. Just so you know, this today is our introduction to using ChatGPT and different types of AI as part of kind of to make you a superhero business owner or whatever that role is you're playing. And so the goal of this, wow, John is bad A, 3,000 clients, 50 employees, and he's from Long Island. Excellent. All right, so I know some of you may not have those same type of stats, so just understand this works for everybody, but it all starts at the top. And so today I'm going to kind of give you that flow. 7 people on team, 600 clients, workflow management. Excellent, James. So yeah, so today I'm going to give you kind of the high level philosophy, paradigm, the way I think about using AI as an extension of myself, like as in similar to hiring an assistant. This is just the greatest, most powerful assistant I've ever had. And I've gone through a lot of assistants. I've had a lot of people working for me up to, I think my biggest team was 280 when I left Applicant Pro that I built from 1. And so I've done all the things that you have to do. I targeted B2B companies, small companies, mid-sized companies. And so as we're going through this, today we're going to focus on getting your mind right about how you think about AI and ChatGPT, number 1. Number 2, so a process of how to use it, how to actually use it so you get the best and most out of it. And then we'll sum up and I'll actually jump in. I'll show you around ChatGPT, show you how I use it. Now, understand, I think this is going to be super valuable, but you're going to have some follow-up videos after this. And so I've broken at the end, I will give you the ability to shoot me an email. I'll sign you up to a series of additional videos. And it's basically where I break it down. Okay, let me show you an exact example of me using this if I was you for recruiting or for whatever. Because if you can imagine teaching you how to do everything it would take to cut your time in half and double your productivity might take more than an hour and a half. So my goal today is that you walk away, number 1, excited about AI, and what it can do as your partner in running your business, like it's one of your employees, like it's an assistant, like it's your Robin to your Batman. It's probably the way to think, only Robin's kind of weak sauce. So it's more like that guy on Batman that gives him all the cool new tech, that person. This is your tag team, your duo to run your business, your life, do your job, whatever the case may be. And so just so you know, that's not hyperbole. I think I left my company, stepped down as CEO 6 months ago. In the last 6 months, where I've just been working, running my own small companies and doing consulting, I've probably spent over 1,000 hours in ChatGPT. So just let that sink in for a minute. And the reason was I was searching for how could I have made my job as CEO of a B2B SaaS company that was growing, that was $32 million, growing at 30%. How could I have made that job easier for me so that it wasn't wearing me out, but we were still scaling? Could I have found a way to do that job in half the time, but still be at least as effective or maybe even more effective? And that seems like a crazy ask or a crazy goal, but that was my goal with ChatGPT. Can I produce twice as much output in half as much time personally? And that should be your goal for yourself. You don't get to have that goal for your team members until you've done it for yourself. You have to go first and prove that it works so you understand it. Then your goal becomes with your team, what would it take for me to make them twice as effective at doing their job in half the time? Here's the reason why those two numbers are so important. My goal is to find a win-win between me and my employees. And technically it's a win-win-win-win. It's 4 wins. Me, I want to win as a business owner. 2, I want my employees to win because I share the wins with them in order to get their loyalty and engagement in what we're doing. Number 3, I want my clients to win. I don't want to make it easier for my employees to do their job, but have it be not as quality of content interactions or whatever with the clients. The last win is as you scale. If you get up where you have managers of people, then the last one is the managers. 4 wins. That is my goal. And I start this by pointing at myself and saying the number one thing that I can do as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, is to free up my time while still becoming more effective. I need to create some extra bandwidth. And maybe that's hop in the chat right now. And if I could deliver you extra bandwidth, meaning you got done as much stuff as you were doing before in half the time, would that be a win? If it is, just type win into the chat. If it's not a win, then I would love to hear what would be a win at the end of this. But that is my goal. I firmly believe that if you take what I'm going to teach today, plus some of the follow-up videos that I'll make for you, you could easily get to twice as effective in half the time, because my stats are much different than that. My stats, and this is all honesty, as an insanely busy CEO, I've definitely crossed the twice as effective in half the time. I'm probably like 5 times as effective in half the time. Oh, look, my amazing fiance, Sarah, brought me some coffee. That's part of the hack. The hack is getting people in the house. That's why you work from home, so you can ask for your assistant to come help you out. Anyway, so that's what the goal is today. So just a little bit about me. You may not know me at all. I actually used to be an accountant. I got a bachelor's degree in accounting, an MBA with an accounting emphasis. I was a controller for, oh gosh, an early day learning management tech company, an ISP, a multi-level marketing company, a motorbike shop, a country club. So I was very much in the corporate side of the accounting world. I quit my job 17 years ago, almost 20 years ago, quit my job and went into web marketing. It was just something I picked up and learned while I was the controller for a tech company. I liked it a lot more than accounting. I went into web marketing. And then about 3 years after that, 17 years ago, I was asked to build a hiring software platform. I'm not a programmer. I had a programmer that worked for me part-time building websites. I'm more of the visionary and marketer and product manager, the person who talks to people and figures out what they need. And so we started that 17 years ago. In the last 17 years, we've done over 100 million in total B2B revenue off of the 40 grand I invested by paying my first employee out of my pocketbook for the first 2 years. I was a controller for a country club while I was building the software platform. Last 10 years, we bootstrapped to 10 years in a row on the Inc. 5000 list. 280 employees, 50% employee year over year growth. And we're running about, I think it's 35 million annual reoccurring revenue with about a 30% growth rate right now when I step down and put full effort into AI. And the reason why I do that, as a good example, is the same reason that you should allocate some of your time to it. I built this huge organization with an amazing management team, and I stepped away because I don't want to work for a big giant company with a huge management team. I like working on small, innovative, kind of black ops. Think of it, the Navy versus a pirate ship. I'm a little too much Captain Jack Sparrow to work with a big fleet of ships. And so I bailed out and said, I'm going to spend the next 6 months, and then I'm going to go back to my teams at my own company and tell them what I learned as I've been trying to figure out AI. At Applicant Pro, where we were niche specific, targeting, selling hiring software. So it's great that you're saying recruiting and finding talent, etc. I can solve that one all day long. That was easy. But I was doing that for businesses. And as an accountant, you're probably targeting or focused on B2B, business to business. I'm going to guess if you want to scale, that's where the money is. Maybe you could say B2C would be high net worth individuals, but let's be honest, most of those people, whether they're physicians or investors, real estate investors, whatever, they technically are business owners. I highly doubt that you're making your money by focusing on normal W-2 employees that make less than 100 grand a year. If you are, I can help you with that too, but today we're going to focus a lot on B2B because it's where the most long-term money, number one, and number two is residual money as far as from clients. And so that's kind of my backstory. Just so you know, my specialization there is, can I figure out how to do something, turn it into a process that I can hand off to a part-time mom that had never done it before. That was the rule. And there was nothing wrong with hiring experts or great people. Sorry, my coffee was not very cold. There's nothing wrong with hiring experts or whatever. Clearly, when I hire programmers, I hire these amazing people, but most of my team and my company at Applicant Pro, we are 80% female. And even the managers and management team are female that we grew from within. And because of that, we have a huge loyal team. We're able to recruit on demand. I don't have the slide on here, but over the last 3 years, we've increased our applicants per job until today. We reject 500 applicants for every person we hire. Just let that sink in for a minute. 500 applicants per hire, we say no to. 20 employee referrals per hire, we say no to when we hire just one person. So just so you know kind of what I've invested in the last, I met Dan Martell probably 6 years ago. So Dan Martell was my personal coach, plus I was in his SaaS Academy. Todd Herman was my personal coach last year. Talking More has been my coach. And between the three of them, I think I've spent almost, $250,000, $250,000 towards my personal, why I know what I know, plus about 10,000 books. And so a lot of what you're getting today is the investment I made in myself as I show you kind of what we can do. And the goal here, the other investment is the last 6 months. I'm not kidding. I got so lucky. I met an amazing woman who's a real estate influencer and we got engaged. But for the last 6 months, we pretty much have both spent all of our time messing around with ChatGPT. It's super cool. We hang out on the beach. We hang out somewhere cool, and we get out our laptops and mess around and figure out how to make ChatGPT make us twice as effective in half the time. That was the goal, right? Quality, not just speed. And so that is, it is a life that I designed by 20 years of hard work to figure out how to do that, those investments. But it's an amazing life, and it's available to anybody who wants to set that as their priority. But I can tell you, as a business owner, I also went, 10 years sleeping 4 hours a night. I was working, 80-hour weeks, and I went through COVID. When we walked into COVID, we were 150 employees. I was forced, because I have a parent company, I was pushed to do the first layoff and last layoff I've ever done. We dropped 10% of our team right when COVID started. And we grew 40% on average year over year since COVID started, every year. just scaling like a rocket ship, and so we dropped 15 and then came back and went from 150 employees to almost 300. So what I was looking for is, I wish I could grow a business and still have a better lifestyle. And that's difficult. One of the ways is to buy back your time, to hire people, to have an assistant, to have a laundry person, to have, somebody who shops for you, all that kind of stuff, to hire people to work with you. But one of the things that I've always struggled with is, can I get somebody to help me do the stuff I'm great at faster? Because there's a lot of stuff I just can't hand off. And ChatGPT, that is why this investment is so powerful, is it's actually allowed me to do my stuff faster, which makes it much easier when I try to teach my team to use it. Because I'm not saying, hey, there's some AI stuff, you should go figure it out. So my goal is to give you equal helpings of chocolate and broccoli. I know we all want the chocolate. That's the easy stuff. So I just want to make sure you know, if you're thinking, okay, we're going to hop in, he's going to sell us some prompts or give us some prompts to use, I do have those. Okay, that's the chocolate. The problem with prompting in ChatGPT, and what that means is, if I told you what to type into ChatGPT to make a request, if all I give you is that, I'm giving you like 20% of the equation it takes to create amazing content and to really get the most out of it. So if you want just 20%, then I could give you a bunch of prompts to download and we can do this webinar in half an hour. But if you want to really get the full picture, that's the broccoli. We kind of got to eat our vegetables. And all I'm asking for is like 90 minutes of patience while we walk through and I explain the why and how I think about ChatGPT before we get into how to use it. It will make everything so much better for you. So here's the chocolate though. I just went ahead and fired up 10 prompts. I actually have 20 pages of prompts that I fired up about 2 hours ago. And if you shoot me an email at the end of this webinar, I'll send them to you. I'll actually send you a video that will show you how to use them in ChatGPT. Huge shortcut, instant success. So this is a good one. Here are 10 prompts that an accounting firm owner could enter into ChatGPT to help them create content, to help them with the strategy launch plan, management of an SMB inbound marketing engine. I've got this same prompt for how to attract clients, how to attract talent, how to write great ads, all that kind of stuff. And so if that's all you're looking for, I will send it to you, I promise. But if that's all you use, I don't really believe I'm helping you for a short period of time, and I'd like to help you for a long period of time. Because what's coming up this next year, I think I don't actually think anybody can describe what I believe the next 3 to 5 years will be like. And the reason is because we're going to go through a massive, I will help you on parts of it, but not exactly tax returns and audit. I can give you some ideas and show you how you would use it. If you understand the fundamentals, I will go back and come up with the prepare tax return audits and accounting. I'm not going to give you prompts for that today, but once you understand the fundamentals, it will make sense about how you would do that. And so today we're going to talk about the overall how to use it and how to think about AI for yourself, for your team, for your business. And then I'll do some follow-up ones where it's like, okay, this is how I would apply that concept for tax prep, for audit, for accounting, etc. Some things, and this is the biggest key here, the goal isn't to automate everything. The goal isn't to automate the stuff that can be automated to buy back our time, because there's some stuff that we're just going to have to keep doing. So for instance, you might not be able to use AI to automate auditing, but you should be able to make you faster at it. You're not going to be able to use AI to make you to automate your accounting, at least not today. Now in the future, you might get there. But the problem is over the next 3 years, we're going to have a presidential election, Russia and Ukraine and China, and we're going to have interest rates going up and potentially a recession coming. And we're also going to have, between blockchain and I believe AI, will massively disrupt to the level of the iPhone, to the level of the internet and email. That's the kind of disruption potentially that could happen. But the key with that is it's not going to happen overnight, okay? And so what you're seeing, part of this progression of the tech companies laying off and public companies struggling, et cetera, is they can see that this big evolutionary period is about to happen, and they can't see what's going to happen next, but they're preparing for it. The way that big companies prepare for that is they lay off people and store up cash, especially if we're not just entering that weird time, but it's also harder to get money because interest rates are up and Silicon Valley Bank and et cetera. It's what they do. So if you look at the tech world and you say, I don't understand why they're laying people off, are they going to fail? Has nothing to do with those companies being in trouble. If one of your average clients, like a construction company or a home builder or whatever, was laying people off, you would think they were in trouble financially. But in the tech world, yeah, so if this isn't for you, that's fine. Trust me, I think you'll be worth it. I'll send out the recording. You're welcome to listen to the recording. But this is the main problem that I have seen in the last 3 months of working with accounting firm owners. I probably talked to 300 of them, helping them with tax planning software. And this is what I found. We have a lot of confidence when it comes to accounting, but we don't have a lot of confidence when it comes to business. And what I mean by that is we know how to do accounting. We know how to do taxes and audit and all those kind of things, but we might not know how to scale a company because it requires different tools, different strategies, different talents and skills, etc. And so I personally believe AI will be the long-term solution that will completely revolutionize how we do work. But this next year, AI is the solution to take some baby steps towards it. Again, I'm not looking to fully automate my company. I'm looking to do twice as much in half the time. That's a very insane goal. But if I said I'm going to automate my entire sales team, that's saying I want to do 100x for a fraction. That's an outrageous request. And so that's our first part of this, reasonable expectations. You need to have reasonable expectations about how AI can be used this year or next year. It will not automate everything you want it to automate. It will automate parts of your life to give you more free time so you would have more time to work on the things it can't solve for. And that's the best way to think about it. And you could say the same for a CRM, for email blasting software, for QuickBooks, for any of those pieces of software out there. It didn't automate everything. It freed up some time from certain tasks, redundant tasks or repetitive tasks or something like that, so you had more time. So our realistic expectation in the next 1 year should be twice your output in half your time for you and twice your output in half the time for your team. That doesn't mean it's going to fix that for every little task they do, but some of their tasks, it will give them 10 times the output, and it will make up for the fact that some tasks it doesn't help them at all. Does that sound fair as far as expectations? Now, one quick thing is it cheating? Isn't using AI cheating? And the best thing to kind of keep in mind is there is a huge difference between education and business. There are a lot of things that are cheating in education that are not cheating in business. Looking over my neighbor's paper and comparing notes is cheating in school, but it is not cheating in business. It isn't. Using a template as a job ad and then making changes to it would be cheating if that was my paper in school, but it isn't in business. And so that's our first thing is anybody who says it's cheating, blah, 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 breaks all these rules, whatever, is most likely focused on it from an educational perspective, meaning the school teachers taught us that this would be cheating. But in the business world, we borrow brilliance all the time. We borrow our competitors' ideas. It's not cheating. It's stupid if you directly copy something that doesn't work, or it's stupid if you directly copy something and post it out there where your potential clients can see that you were doing that. But using somebody else's template starting point and then adjusting, that's actually just smart business. So next up, adoption. Getting adoption of AI both for yourself and therefore for your team and therefore for your clients starts off with kind of your paradigm. Are you optimistic or are you pessimistic? This is the way to think about it. This guy has fear because he believes that this new technology is going to potentially harm him or take opportunity away. And that's what it is. It's going to be a negative for opportunity. Or do you have joy? This person says it's going to actually create new opportunities. But those opportunities might be getting more done in less time so I can go on vacation. You know, the reason why I can spend half my time in Cabo is because I use technology to create more opportunities for myself. I'm not afraid of it. So the first question you have to ask yourself, are you an optimist or a pessimist when it comes to AI? It's most likely the same thing. Are you an optimist or a pessimist when it comes to using technology at work? It will be the same flow. The second thing is when you look at your team, you have to understand that your team is not you. Your team views rolling out of technology and that kind of stuff as potentially fearful. In fact, your default team is going to start over here until you provide them with a vision of what the future will look like that shows them that there are added opportunities for them. But almost by default, any employee is going to view AI as a negative or afraid of it because somebody needs to show them what the future will be like of them working for you. And so it starts with, kind of leading yourself. Let me give you an example. I sat down at AI Blast, about a free AI webinar, and this was the response I got. I'm teaching people for free. I'm not charging them anything. And I got this. Not only will I never use Chat AI, I firmly believe anyone who does is a fraud. This is an educational concept. This is a writer who has fear. She's afraid that it's going to replace her job. Going back to this, clearly she's a pessimist. You need to decide. It is not right or wrong. I can tell you that if you were alive when cell phones first came out, when pagers came out, when the internet first came out, when email came out, when the iPhone came out, the pessimists were like, nobody's ever going to use their phone to do things they do on a computer. When laptops came out, this exact thing from a owner's perspective, was it joy or fear? And from a team perspective, you could go back and watch all of those innovations and you'll see the same exact concept playing out as this right here. I don't believe it'll ever. Now, some of it might be like very direct. If they're a fraud, some of it could be, that's never going to work. That's not going to be as good as a human, et cetera, et cetera. And if you go back and look at the news, you'll see that kind of flow. The reason that we have this kind of opportunistic thing is that you have to look at what's called the product adoption cycle. What this is it's a bell curve of how we adopt new products and new technologies such as AI or such as Tesla Autopilot. And what you find is that we have these kind of like influencers who try new stuff even though it doesn't work. And back here we have hardcore skeptics who won't even try stuff when it's been proven to work. They still have a flip phone. Now in the middle, you might have followers and you have early adopters and the early majority and the late majority, and you get back to skeptics. Now think about this is something really important. If you understand people whose core job is compliance, HR, accountants, lawyers, the curve actually looks more like this. As a population, you guys are a lot more skeptical than the average person. Now, on the flip side, you have the tech world. Every new tech, every software guy who's bringing you new stuff, we look like this. We get punished for being late adopters by VC, by success, by everything. And so the tech world, tech executives, and the people who are selling you and pitching you new stuff look like that. But to be honest, I just came from targeting the HR world. Anybody who has to put on a compliance hat, who is risk averse because part of their job is helping to lower risk, will struggle with this concept right here. Why is that important? Well, because even if you say, no, I'm more optimistic, trust me, the people who are attracted to accounting jobs, because I was, are not. They're more skeptical. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means by nature, by how their brain's been trained, by how college trained them, by how the job trains them, by default, they are skeptical of trying new innovative things because of the risk and uncertainty. So you just have to understand that part. So here is why this is a big deal. What you see if you listen to, say, the news media about AI, or if you listen to all the sales pitches, you listen to Silicon Valley, if you hang out with people in the tech world, you're going to hear this thing that they just don't get. There's this analogy of boiling a frog, right? And the analogy is if you throw them into a boiling pot of water, if this was already boiling, they would jump out. Instead, you need to warm them up slowly. It's an amazing analogy about why new innovations struggle, why there's a gap between what Silicon Valley wants and what the actual Main Street America adopts. And the reason is because if I was going to start a company in the AI space, if I was the founders of ChatGPT, I am rewarded by saying, this is going to change the world tomorrow. That's what the reward is. Because if I tell them this is going to change the world in a decade, I won't get funded. And therefore, as an entrepreneur, that's what I'm pushed to do. The problem is changing the world that fast doesn't work for skeptics. They don't change that fast. Going back to these people in this product or tech adoption curve, they're up here. This is where the founders sit of tech companies. This is where the VCs sit. This is what they're looking for. They want to be in early on an investment. This is where some risk investors live. But if they're only surrounded by these people, they don't know that accountants are going to be a little bit slower to adopt AI not because their heads in the sand, but because they literally have more balance towards risk aversion than gain. So what does this mean? Well, the right way, the real adoption should look more like this, that over time, and it actually probably in the accounting world of new ideas and new stuff looks like this. You have to get to the part where it's a trend, where there's proof, where it's proven, before you get mass adoption of something like this, like AI or email or text messaging or anything like that in the accounting world. Now, what I intend to do, or how I look at it, is I'm constantly buying a shortcut. That's what I do. I buy a shortcut. That shortcut might be a tool, it might be training, it might be a mentor, it might be a coach. Dan Martell and Todd Herman, those were all my shortcuts. They allowed me not just to not lag, not just to be average, but to jump up on here early and be ahead of the curve. I always wanted to be ahead of my competitors in using technology, but I didn't want to do it in a way that was wasteful and risky. And so this is how I buy. It's kind of like, think about as buying insurance. Probably the best way. Coming to this webinar today, you're paying with your time to buy insurance. And what it is I can give you a leg up so that you're less likely to waste your time. You're more likely to use a proven strategy earlier than everybody else. So what does this look like? The first part is, what is your goal? And this is kind of an interesting thing about building a business, but in a lot of kind of normal business services, Main Street, that kind of thing, our goal is we say we want to be different, but we want to be like 10% different. We want to be 10% better than our competitors. But over here is wildly different. And AI has this potential to make you wildly different, but it does require you setting that as your mindset up front. I'm going to be open to doing things wildly differently than we did them before. I'm going to be open to testing and trial and error until I figure it out the right way, because the gain is this 80% different, not 10% different than your competitors. So my goals for today, really quite simple. I'm going to walk you through how to think about AI, specifically AI as an assistant, AI as your partner in crime, however you want to think about it. I'm going to show you a framework of how to use AI, and then I'll actually show you how I use it following that framework. If you don't jump that and you just want to go pay somebody to give you prompts, you're welcome to do it. Just understand, you jump to number 3 without 1 and 2, and long term, it won't pay off. And here's the reason. At the end of the day, quality content is important. It isn't just that we want to be fast. We don't just want to be fast. If you want to be fast at writing a job ad, you could literally go copy your competitors and repost it. Most likely that's what you guys have been doing, and it's not working for you. The reason why is because you copied failure. You copied somebody else's mistakes that weren't working. If you want to be faster, but also at least maintain the quality, that's going to take a little bit more work. My goal, though, is actually to be faster and better. And that means it requires really focusing on making sure that when I get faster, I don't give up quality. I don't give up that piece. Now, if you jumped into ChatGPT today and you played around with it and you just threw a prompt at it, then yeah, you would see that it's very fast at creating content. In fact, I could jump over in ChatGPT and say, write me a job ad for an accounting firm. It would be extremely fast. The problem is what that gives me back isn't guaranteed to work. I gave it very little context. It's the same, think about ChatGPT like hiring an assistant. Imagine if you hired an assistant and on the very first day, you just made a request, hey, will you go and write a marketing piece for me to send out on LinkedIn? What do you think you would get back? I'm not saying she'd fail or he. I'm not saying that she'd win. I'm saying most likely you would get back randomness. It may not nail it perfectly because I didn't give them any context. She doesn't know who I am. She doesn't know who I target. She doesn't understand what we've tried in the past. She doesn't understand our mission and vision of what we're trying in the future. She doesn't understand what types of clients we want to target, what types of services we offer, what makes us different than our competitors. I didn't give them any context. Now, I could level up the knowledge of that person. I could hire somebody who's done marketing for an accountant before, and that request and that context, it would reduce the chances of it being random, right? It might be better, but it also might still miss the mark. But imagine if I went out and found the smartest person on earth. They'd read the entire encyclopedia. It's possible they would actually be worse than hiring somebody who'd done it before. By having somebody who has all the knowledge, they have too much knowledge to pull from, and therefore you got to focus them in on specific things. And that's ChatGPT. If you fire up ChatGPT, effectively, it's like you just hired for $20 a month for the pro service, which is why I use. You don't have to use it. You can do it for free, but trust me, upgrade. For $20 a month, I've just hired the literal smartest assistant ever, but she knows so much stuff, or he knows so much stuff, that if I ask a random vague question, I'm going to get back random vague answers. And my goal, quality, is never random or vague. It is specific, it is targeted. And so that's our first part. So what does that mean? So what it means is that if you want to have high quality results, you're going to have to invest time and energy to get there. Or you're going to have to buy some shortcuts. And that's the goal of today, is to give you some shortcuts. Here's the first part to understand the difference between what we're going to talk about, or my approach, and anybody else's. Most people right now are offering, hey, download our prompts for ChatGPT. So if we said the fastest results would be download our operation prompts. Cool. You're going to download a whole list of operational prompts. You're going to get a login to ChatGPT, check. You're going to copy and paste that prompt in there, check. And it's going to publish the information for you that you can publish, meaning you could send it out if it's marketing, you could give it to your team, you could hand it to your assistant, whatever. There's just one problem. These operational prompts are not taking into account who you are, what size you are, how big your company is, what your target market is, what you're trying to accomplish, the specific culture and values and tone of who you are. But it did get me done fast. It just most likely is going to give me vague and random results. And trust me, whether this is content you're sending out in marketing, or content you're sending to your clients, or content you're giving to an employee, or a training program, or a recruiting ad, or something like that, vague and random never works. It only works if everybody else is utterly failing. But vague and random are not the goal. Anytime that I try to compete against the bigger world, against a bigger competitor, I'm going to niche. You've heard this, the riches are in the niches. Well, by niche, when it comes to content, it means I'm going to actually provide a backstory. I'm going to tell my new employee I just hired, called ChatGPT, my backstory. Who am I? What do I do? Who do we target? What am I working on? What is the backstory of it? What is the context? What is some research? What's some knowledge? What's my vocabulary? What's my tone of voice? I'm going to give it a backstory. If I don't get a backstory and I just jump right to the prompt, then I'm most likely going to fail. Number two is then I'm going to give it a specific prompt. Specific means, and I'll show you, is not vague. It's not just saying, write me a blog post or write me a training manual. I'm going to suggest to it the tone to use, the structure to use, who it's for, etc. And then this right here, yeah, it's not going to be perfect all the time. So I'm going to refine it. Refining it might mean cleaning it up before I send it out email. Refining it might mean adding graphics to it if it's a book. Refining it might mean giving it feedback and say, no, I don't want to refer to this as this. From now on, refer to it as that. I don't want to refer to my employees as employees. I want to refer to them as my team. So that's kind of effectively the flow for how you go through with this before you actually publish. And again, by publish, I mean post it if it's a social media thing, send it if it's an email, hit reply and send it back to a client. What I'm looking for here, and this is the simple equation, is we want to think about, there are shortcuts, but I have something at my work called the nastiness score. Nastiness says, how important is what I'm working on? And the way I grade it is, how many people are going to see it? Is this for the whole world to see? Or is this just for one client? Number two, do I have the ability to fix it? How hard will it be to fix it? How difficult will it be to fix the relationship behind it? Is it going to destroy trust? This is a simple equation that says how nasty something is. If I'm going to create a piece of marketing content that 100,000 people are going to see, and I'm going to post it on social and there's no way to take it back, and it has the potential to harm my relationship, well, that's like a red nasty. It doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. It means I should assume the quality is important, and therefore it's probably going to require an investment in time to make it less nasty. Now, if I instead say this is just one email that I'm going to send to my client, I want you to type up the reply, well, the quality is important at this level, and I won't need to invest as much time in it. The cool thing is that you can actually program ChatGPT to remember a lot of this stuff, so it's not the same amount of work each time. I spent a fraction of the time today to get to the same content I wanted to write as I spent before at the beginning 6 months ago. And the reason is, A, I've gotten smarter, but B, I've trained my ChatGPT login account with backstory, and I'll show you what that means. So here's my number one shortcut when it comes to business. If you run or manage a team, you have to go first. If you expect your clients to do something that you're not good at, if you expect your employees to do something that you're not good at, if you expect people to take a risk, meaning your employees, something that you weren't willing to allocate your time and attention to, it's really, really hard for them to follow. So similar to Maverick in the movie, when he goes and runs the gauntlet at 2 minutes, even though everybody had been running it at 4, at 2 minutes and 20 seconds, once he accomplishes it, it changes and opens up the potential of your team or your clients. Somebody has to go first. So today we're going to talk about the 5 main engines that you have to build in order to actually run a successful and scaled accounting team. You need to be able to generate demand. Yes, this is marketing and sales and upgrades. You need to be able to come up with a unique and compelling offering, whether that's your list of services, your pricing, etc. You're going to have to build a talent engine, and that means recruiting, new hire training. It means retention and amplifying the results you get from your team. It means you're going to have to figure out operations. You're going to have to manage meetings and teams and all that stuff. And then here in the middle, you're going to have to actually manage a client engine. This has to do with, how do we launch a new client? How do we kick off a project? How do we do maintenance on a client, whether that's audit or tax or whatever the case may be? All 5 of these areas are what it takes to scale a successful firm, a successful B2B company, a successful SaaS company, all 5 of them. And they're broken into their separate parts. And in future videos, I can show you this, but ChatGPT can help you with all of it. So while you might look at it and say, I spend most of my time auditing, in order to figure out the nuance and train ChatGPT to help you audit, you might have to start by freeing up some time doing talent acquisition so you can allocate that time to auditing. Just because it's nastier stuff, therefore I'll have to allocate more time to it. And so that's the best way to think about it, is we're going to have to prioritize things based on what are some early wins. And while they may not be big wins, they're early, they build momentum. And what are some of our big wins that long-term we're looking for? So today's your lucky day. I'm going to show you exactly how I go about doing it. So let's go back to this thing and remember, my goal is not to just throw a prompt. If I log into ChatGPT and I say, oh yeah, it gave me information, but like it wasn't very good. It was random. It was vague. It wouldn't work for me. It's not as good as a human, blah, 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 blah. If you hear all of that stuff, the answer is this was the flow and you didn't do enough to make it work. But trust me, my answer is always going to be on me. ChatGPT will progress and get better over time, but the value I'm getting out of it at any given time has to do with my time and attention to giving it great backstory, giving it a very specific prompt, and refining it and giving it feedback or making adjustments before I do something with it. This is all on me, the user. And if you want your team, your managers to do this, then you're going to have to go first and show them that the value of AI is in its assistance to a human. Therefore, you got to control what you can control. That's the human portion. That is, am I giving a good story? Am I giving it specific prompts? Am I giving it feedback? And am I making adjustments before I send it out? These things are the requirement for any new tool. If it had very low potential, like, oh, this will make me 5% faster, then clearly you wouldn't be willing to invest your time in it and you'd hope for fast wins. But if it has the ability to really change the world, you're going to have to invest. Now, let me tell you my process, because I use a couple different pieces of AI for very specific things. The first part is I have to actually give it my backstory. I need to tell it what we're working on. Who am I? What am I all about? What am I trying to do? Why am I trying to do it? What is my end goal? What do I want help with? I need to give it my backstory. Now, the way that I give it my backstory is I log into ChatGPT and I ask it to give me some interview questions. These interview questions are either for me to ask myself an answer or for me to ask my team or my client or anybody like that. I need to gather knowledge from humans. And the reason why I'm trying to gather human knowledge, it's not that humans are smarter than ChatGPT. It's that they're more focused on their given situation. Humans are situational. Therefore, if I give a situation and ask a series of questions, it will give me the situational context. I'm then going to record it in Otter.ai, or I might record it on Zoom and then plug it into Otter. And my goal is to get back a transcript. The reason for this is I don't want to sit down and type for a long time. I'm much better talking. And so if I just hit record, I go in here and I type into ChatGPT. I ask it for the interview questions and that kind of stuff. It gives them back to me. I then turn around. So I start with a backstory into it. I have it give me questions. I turn around, record my answers. It gives me a transcript. I plug that back in. I paste it into ChatGPT. And then I can now give it a good prompt. I can give it feedback and I can then publish it. Hopefully, let me make sure I'm going to stop for a minute. Does this make sense to everybody? Do you understand kind of that this is a process I'm going through to get to the end result? I will get faster and faster and faster at running that process, but I've created thousands or tens of thousands of pages of content over the last 6 months with ChatGPT. Marketing content, books, webinars, video backstories, transcripts. I've had it outline entire web projects for me. I've had it create database structures to build a new tool. I've had it do all kinds of things. And I always follow this same exact approach. I give it the backstory of what I'm trying to do. I have it come up with some interview questions. I interview myself or whoever I'm trying to help. I convert it to a transcript. I plug it back into ChatGPT, and then I give it a prompt for what I'm trying to do. If you try to short circuit that, just keep in mind, you're going to get what you put in. And this isn't a money thing. It's not like you can buy a more expensive version of ChatGPT and that it will cut all this headache out. The only way for you to do this would be either to pay somebody like me to train it for you. I guess you could do that, because you can't just have a random employee do it. It needs to be good. Or do it yourself. Those are the options as of today in how to do it. So when Bing or Microsoft comes out or Google comes out and says, oh, we've integrated our assistant into our email, just understand what they're saying is they've given you some prompts to use to rewrite an email, but most likely they aren't going to have any backstory or context in it. Now, long term, Google and Microsoft and those guys will hope to bring in context by reading all your emails. But you're still going to struggle getting to what you want if you aren't willing to give it a focus. So that's kind of the flow. So what is my backstory? Really quite simple. I want to answer these 4 questions. Who am I? What am I trying to do? Why am I trying to do it? How am I trying to do it? And what do I want it to do next, right? This is literally just tell me about the situation. And that's really the idea. Can you tell me about, in as much detail as possible, the situation? Now, the cool thing is once you add this situation into a given conversation thread, you can go back and use that over and over and over again. So I actually end up with these little, and you'll see it when I get into ChatGPT, I end up with these little, we'll call these threads. The best way to think about them is like a conversation in chat via iMessage or via Hangouts or Slack or something like that, where you have channels. The best way is to think about these like channels. And depending on the type of business you're running, you're going to have channels for potentially different target niches. So I might have a channel for my construction clients versus my manufacturing clients versus whatever. I might have it by niche and by what I'm trying to do. So I could divide it by construction and tax versus manufacturing and bookkeeping. I could divide it. So, and the more that we create of these, the more focus they become. And once again, the more focused they are, the better the content we get. Now, you don't have to start by loading all these up. You just pick the first project you want to work and save yourself some time, and then it saves so that when you come back, you name it and it will be there for you. So I'm going to now walk through and kind of we'll run this flow, and I'll show you. I'm going to jump into ChatGPT. I think we started at 3. I think I planned this for 4:30. So we've got about 40 minutes that I will walk through as much as possible. If you have any specific things that you're saying, hey, will you show me how to create some, I know a couple people brought up recruiting. I'll show you a couple examples of that. Just understand, I'm not going to give you everything you need to do for a given thing because we just don't have the time. I'll actually go back and record it. And if you want it, I'll tell you how to get access to it. But we're going to walk this flow each time, right? Can I feed it the info? Can I tell it the goal? Can I tell it my story and context? Can I ask it this context? Can I come up with a list of interview questions or research questions or whatever that I can plow back into it? And then can I give it a high quality, specific prompt? And so that is the goal. Like I said, most people are giving vague prompts here, not specific. And if they give it specific prompts, it still doesn't have the backstory to go off of. So if you think about this as like an equation, let's say that it's A, the backstory, times the context. I need to call this backstory. Times the context, times the prompt, times the feedback, equals the result you get, the quality of the result. Do this simple equation. If you mess up any of those parts of the equation, the quality, the value, the result you get is going to be low. If you want to fix it, it's not just a better prompt. We're going to call this one a specific prompt. And so now you can see this is basically the equation you're going to see me run over and over again. If you come to me and you tell me, hey, ChatGPT it's crap, it sucks, it's not doing it, I will literally go back and say, well, did you give it the right backstory? Did you provide it context? Did you give it a specific prompt? Did you give it feedback to narrow it down and dial it in? Because most likely you didn't do one of those things or all of them. And so the results, it gave you back results, because trust me, ChatGPT will always give you back results. So I'm going to come back to this page in a minute here, but I'm going to jump over now into ChatGPT. Here's my email address. If you want to, I can definitely send you out this deck. I can send you out a copy of the recording, and I will send out some follow-up ones. But now we're going to jump into the how to do it. So just give me 1 second here and let me fire this up. you have any specific questions, just as I'm transitioning, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. It's coming up. Awesome. All right. So this is my ChatGPT version here. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what it is. I will send you out these prompts right here. I started creating them earlier. And so I actually have 10 pages of prompts. I'm more than happy to email to you. Again, you can shoot me an email, Ryan@Refer.io. But since you came to this thing, I'll just send it out with the recording and everything as a follow-up. So I will send you out the prompts of, and basically I'm going through marketing stuff, each of those engines. I will end up going through each of the engines. If you remember, the engines were, all right, I gotta get Canva. If you don't use Canva, you should definitely use Canva BTW. Canva is one of my other secret weapons for, there, I gotta hide it. Let me go and go back to our engines so we can jump back and forth here. All right, these were our engines. So I will send out prompts and videos for each of these engines, because literally, like, I know that's a lot, but you could use it to do a lot of stuff. So let's start off with what I have from a technology standpoint, and I'll walk you through each part. Number one, I use Canva. That's anytime I'm doing any graphic stuff. Canva does have the ability to do AI images and all kinds of cool AI stuff. So I use Canva. Number two is I use an app called Otter. Otter.ai. It's how I record from my phone. I'm going to show you in a minute. I have the app on my phone, plus I have the web interface here. It's how I do my interviewing. If I was using Zoom to do an interview with a third party, with somebody else, then I would copy the transcript, the audio transcript, into Otter and have it transcribe it. If I was using Marco Polo or anything like that, Loom videos or whatever, if somebody's providing me context and knowledge in a video format or an audio format, I'm going to use Otter to transcribe it. Effectively, I'm going to show you, if I fire up the Otter app here, and I say, so I hit the bottom and I say new recording, it's now going to record everything I'm saying as we go. So there's two basic ways to use Otter.ai. I can use it real time doing this, or I can come up here to import and drag and drop any of these file types. So I can drag and drop a Zoom file. I can drag and drop just any type of audio recording. I can download a video from YouTube and drag and drop in here. It's just that those are the two options: live record or drag and drop. So Otter.ai. Next up, ChatGPT. So I do have the Pro account, or the Plus account, I think it's called. There's a reason for it. Actually, there's a couple of reasons why I pay for Pro. It's $20. It's not that expensive. So number one, I believe in investing in technology companies, and therefore I believe in paying my weight. $20 is cheap. So that's number one. Number two, I want priority over all the riffraff who won't pay for it. And so anytime you see a new launch or something like this, being an upgraded user generally means I get priority, and that's the case in here. My fiance doesn't have Pro, and what will happen is ChatGPT is slower for her, or sometimes will be offline for periods of time, but it's not offline as often for the Plus or the Pro accounts. So that's my reason. Number three, I just assume that when I'm paying on the early days that they're going to reward that group of users at some point, because that's what SaaS companies do. Now, the next thing I have is this chat. It's down here on the bottom. It's called Web Chat GPT extension. This is a Chrome extension. So I run ChatGPT in Chrome. And the reason is so that I can plug this other extension into it. What this extension does is allows me to run a search in Google. And so by toggling this, it's telling ChatGPT, go run a Google search, give me back 10 results in the past month in the United States, right? For the certain prompt, either making a new prompt, which would open up a new conversation, or not. And so this, you'll see me toggle back and forth between them. If I'm trying to research something and it's more like in the last 3 years, like what are the biggest accounting problems accounting firms are facing in 2023? I could type that in here and say, what, research biggest business challenges that accounting firm owners are facing in 2023. So by giving it access to Google, it's actually going to go and pull research back, right? And so that's kind of it hits it and comes back. So this right here, I don't know why it's not. I wonder if it's blocking. I might need to refresh it. Normally it would hit it, come back. It's probably because let me hit refresh. Hang on. So I'm going to go ahead and slam the same thing in. Let's see if it does what it's supposed to do. There we go. All right. So what it should do is it pulls back all this web research and then it summarizes it for me. So here we go. Our very first test, right? We look at this and we say, sorry, I gotta get you guys back so I can see the chat on here. There we go. So you can see it just did a bunch of research for me. That's awesome. Now I'm going to turn it back off and now I can put in my prompt or ask it questions. And so by doing that, it brought back, you can see morale and burnout, capacity issues, coping with technology efforts, lack of accounting skills, cybersecurity and data management, constantly changing tax laws. So you can see these are most likely some of your biggest problems. So if I was trying to help a client out, whether I was helping the client, whether I was prospecting or creating marketing content, whether I was trying to brainstorm a new idea, anything like that, this is a lot of times where I would start. And so I'm going to use this and I'll show you really quick. I'm just going to fire up a brand new chat. And the other part is if you're on Plus, you get ChatGPT 4. I'm going to use 3.5 today because it's faster. And so the quality is better on ChatGPT 4, but it's slower. And so when I'm doing a webinar like this, I like to use it that way. And so I might come in here and say, I own an accounting firm with 20 employees, and I'm struggling to recruit talent. Can you help me? Right? Now I'm literally treating it like I would treat a human, like I'm chatting back and forth, right? It's going to come back and give me some feedback here, right? But again, that's going to be a random thing because by starting it here, it has no backstory to judge from. I could start with a good prompt. So I might say, I wonder what other accounting firms are struggling with. So I might say research, talent, recruiting challenges in 2023 for accounting firm owners. And that's going to hit Google and come back with some research, right? All right, cool. According to the research, here's what we got back. Now, I might do another one of saying creative ideas for accounting firms to recruit or attract talent. So I'm just doing some research to feed some context into the situation, right? And so this is just giving me some different ideas of what kind of things I could do, right? Now, at this point, I might need to make a switch and say, well, that's what everybody else is doing. I want to do it differently. And so I might actually ask it something like, how would an accounting firm use innovative and creative, recruitment marketing strategies to differentiate themselves? So what I'm doing here is I just took a shortcut. The shortcut is I know the concept of recruitment marketing. If I didn't know it, I might say, could we act like recruiting is marketing? How would you do that? And it will come back with knowledge about it. You need an engaging brand identity. You need to develop recruitment videos. You need to host virtual events, provide valuable content, use social media, create interactive job descriptions, etc. And so this pulls back some different ideas. And so most likely I might give it some more stuff and say, well, I generally know there's patterns for how to compete for things. There's Goliath and David. And every time you have David versus Goliath, which is most of us for recruiting, we're Davids, we're competing against big talent or big organizations, then I need to know, what are some underdog strategies that an accounting firm might use to combine marketing, niche marketing, and recruiting into recruitment marketing plan, right? And so I'm feeding it some ways to, again, ChatGPT has too much knowledge. So by giving it things like underdog strategies and niche marketing and recruiting all in one request, all in one prompt, I'm saying focus in on these certain things. It's going to come back and go, okay, targeting certain demographics. You should pick a niche. Do you want to focus on recent grads? Do you want to focus on part-timers? Do you want to focus on older retirees that just want to work some of the time? Leveraging industry events, partnering with, so you can see. Now, if I decide this and I start with the top one, say, okay, what if my target demographic was accounting females who want part-time jobs because they need flexibility for their family? I'm going to end up recruiting twice as many on my team, but the cost will be about the same. So now it's going to re-look at that and go, okay, cool. Well, if your target demographic is accounting females, because in every situation, whether we're talking about talent engine and recruiting and managing my team, or whether we're talking about a demand engine of acquiring customers, or if you're trying to tell me, hey, I want to differentiate the way I work with my customers or whatever, I'm always going to come back to the same core framework of segment it. Don't treat everybody the same, break them into segments. Then how do I change what we do, our approach, to make it more personalized for each segment? That's how I'm going to fix hiring in every situation. It's how I'm going to fix marketing in every situation. It's how I'm going to fix coming up with a new cool blue ocean offering in every situation. Is I'm always going to take my base, I'm going to split it up, I'm going to segment it and say, okay, for this given segment, how would this change? So you can automatically see things like flexible work arrangements, company culture, employee referrals, networking. Awesome. So this gives me my starting point. So at this point, I can say, if my goal is to target specifically 25 to 30 hours per week, part-time mom accountants to grow my firm, what will some of the challenges be versus full-time employees? Look, this gives me my yeah, but these certain things are going to be hard, right? Okay, cool. So I need to prepare up front. And so this is a lot of this you see, I'm brainstorming with it. The reason why I'm brainstorming is because it's way faster than me doing it on my own. I can ask one question, get back a page of content. Number two, all that brainstorming is feeding the top of my feed. Now I might come over here and you can see accounting firm recruiting. I might recruiting struggle. So I might rename this conversation over here because I can come back to it at any point. And I'll say, this is accounting, recruiting, right? And I might put this as moms. Cool. I'm going to recruit moms in this one subject. If I wanted to jump over to ChatGPT for real estate brokers, I would jump over to this one. And so that gives me the ability to jump from one to the other. I'm maintaining all of this context, right? And so I just said, sorry, I got to jump back into this one. So here is, if I'm going to target them, here's some of the problems I'm going to have. This is the pushback I might get about that. And so I might say, create a list of interview questions to ask my managers to help them brainstorm how we will overcome these challenges if we end up with more part-time workers than full-time. Cool. It's going to create me a list of interview questions. I would go sit down with my team. I'd ask them these questions. I would record it on Zoom. I would plow it back into ChatGPT at that point. I might say, imagine that I have a couple of successful working moms. And this is the number one hack. Once you decide you've got somebody in your office that, who have I hired in the last 2 to 3 years that I wish I could clone? That's all you got to start with. And so you're like, well, imagine that I have a couple of successful working accounting moms that I'd like to use as my role model or persona for my recruiting strategy. Now, if you have an HR background, you're going to say, oh my gosh, that's discriminatory. No, I can also recruit, again, segment, personalize. So if I'm an accounting firm, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with 3 different segments for who I want to recruit. New graduates, people who graduated 3+ years ago who work for bigger firms and want a smaller firm, and working moms that want a part-time job because their old accountant fired them and told them they couldn't come back if they weren't coming back full-time. Those might be my 3 personas for recruiting. I'm now going to run the same flow for each of them so that I can personalize my plan, my strategy, my content, my job ads, how my screening questions, all that kind of stuff. And so you can see here, great, like if you have a successful working moms, so I might say, I want to interview each of these role models to figure out what makes them love working for us, how we can make their experience better, and how we can highlight what our culture and company has to offer people like them. So this is where I'm getting to the part of going, look, I could just throw a prompt at this and say, write me an ad. I could totally do that. And it would work as long as everybody else who I'm competing with is doing terrible. But if I want to actually dial that in specifically for me, for my company, for my whatever, I would literally come up with these questions and I would shoot an email to those 2 moms or those 2 women that work for me. I would say, or I'd get them on a Zoom call, either way, and say, hey, can I get 10 minutes for an interview? Just record it with audio and send it back to me, or record it on Zoom and send it back to me, and literally interview them. What initially attracted you to working for a company? What has kept you here? Can you describe a time when you felt particularly supportive? What are the benefits? What are the policies? Now, what do you think I'm going to do with this, the information I get back from the interview? I'm going to paste it back into ChatGPT. Now, if these were questions that I would ask myself, give me a list of questions. We'll go with a list of 4 questions to ask myself about what makes our culture and work environment This is going to give me a list of questions. And so then I can show you how I actually would use that, right? So now I can go ahead, I can jump over to my phone and fire up otter.ai. And I'm now going to say, the name of the question, what specific policies or benefits do we offer that support working moms, such as flexible schedules, telecommuting options, or parental leave? Well, at Applicant Pro, we offer a whole bunch of benefits specifically to help working moms. Number 1, we give PTO to part-timers. We give 15 part-time days worth of PTO per year to part-timers. Number 2, everybody has a laptop and an iPhone. They take them home with them. Therefore, they can work from wherever they're at, including a soccer game. Number 3, I pay for house cleaning. I have a monthly bonus of $100 a month that goes towards house cleaning. Therefore, that makes my employees super happy. Number 4, I pay referral bonuses when they refer another person to come work for us, right? Number 5, I focus on results, not how and when they work. What I mean by that is, as long as they're getting their stuff done and it's done according to specifications and quality, I'm not as picky about them doing it from 9 to 10 a.m. I work with them on creating a flexible schedule. I still need them to stick to the schedule. I still need to be able to create expectations with my clients. It might be, we have a 24-hour turnaround on support. If somebody asks a question, we expect it to be turned around within 24 hours. Our clients know that. Because of that, that gives some additional flexibility. I treat them like adults. I take into account their desires, their goals, and what's going on, their priorities. Now, next, how do we prioritize work-life balance for all employees, and what steps do we take to ensure working moms are able to balance their work and family responsibility? Well, we were remote first to begin with. We've always been hybrid. We are now very lax hybrid, which means we have people who are fully remote, and we work with each employee to figure that out. How do we create supportive and inclusive culture for working moms, including opportunities for mentorship, networking, professional development? Oh, awesome. We have Workplace, which is a Facebook variation specifically for our organization. It has groups and activities in there. It has places where people can connect. That's where we disseminate and distribute information. We do team offsites. I'm about ready to go to Cabo with a couple of my teammates to bring them down and work off-site where we can get a whole bunch of work done in a 1-week period and then go back to normal remote working? How do we communicate our support for working moms, both internally and externally, to attract and retain top talent? Oh, awesome. I have created a job sharing program when we have a new job opening that prompts my employees to go share that job opening out on Facebook. Our job ads are written specifically to target working moms. They have working mom stories. We use those moms sharing that job on Facebook to give us more credibility with the ad, and we track the results coming back. We don't just pay people or pay our team if we hire their person. We have a monthly contest that goes on where we have 10 prizes for the 10 people who referred the most applicants, even if we didn't hire them. Okay, so that right there is my backstory. I just recorded it on Otter. I'm now going to come over here, go to my conversations. I have to give it a second here so that it can process. Luckily, it is pretty quick. So you'll see it'll say processing audio. If it says that, I might need to still wait a minute. Right? And so at this point, it's all done. There's a couple different ways that I could get access to it. I can export it. It's going to export this whole entire thing. I could just copy and paste what specific policies or benefits, right? So I can just go ahead and copy this. I'm going to jump back over to ChatGPT. I'm going to say, cool. Here are my answers to those questions. I've just given it a whole bunch of backstory, right? Now, at this point, if I was to give it an awesome prompt, it would most likely write me a cool job ad. And so if I say, write a job description for a bookkeeper to work for my accounting firm, now it's going to write it. Now, this is a vague prompt, understand. Now, granted, I have all that context I gave it, but I asked it for a job description. Now, the problem is people think, and it's relying on the group knowledge of what's out there. Right now, most job ads are very company focused, not job seeker focused. That's a problem. And so I might say, I want to write a compelling and creative job seeker focused job ad to attract working moms. Now I'm giving it more context, right? Compelling and creative. It says, don't do it like everybody else, right? Make it job seeker focused. Now I'm starting to get an ad. Now I might say, look, if I give it more specifics, my target is specifically women who were working full-time for an accounting firm, but when they decided to start a family, their current employer wasn't flexible with coming up with the right balance option. We are flexible. Rewrite the ad, but make it witty. So now I'm going to ask it to make a certain tone. So I'm like, but use an irreverent and compelling tone. Oh my gosh, I can't spell it all. Cool. Now it's going to come back very different, right? Because I said irreverent, suddenly I'm getting a totally different flow of content, right? Now, that's a very aggressive one, and you might say, rewrite this to make it casual, but not irreverent. And it's going to rewrite it for me to not say badass anymore, right? Hey there, we're looking for a talented bookkeeper. Here's the best part. I might say, so for me, when I'm creating a job ad as a good example, I don't use one prompt. I actually use 6 different prompts, and I combine it all together in my ad. I start with, write a creative intro for the first 3 paragraphs of my job ad that speak directly to this target persona, right? Now it's going to give me the kind of intro into it. Hey there, working mom. We know that life can be a juggling act, blah, 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 blah. At Applicant Pro, we understand family comes first. That's why we're looking for a talented bookkeeper to join our team, somebody who is blah, 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 right? I might say, write an about us. So I might say research. I'm going to kick it back to the web. I'm going to say employee reviews working at Applicant Pro. That's going to hit the internet and pull back the search results. Then I'm going to go ahead and say, can you write what it's like to work for Applicant Pro paragraph for my creative job ad, right? So this is giving me our about Applicant Pro, right? I might say, could you create a paragraph about what makes our benefits and work environment unique for working moms? Now, remember, this was in my interview questions, right? And so now I'm pulling back this story of the job ad. I might write a funny story of a day in the life as a working mom accountant. So why is this like very unprofessional? You're right. What it also is wildly unique. Now, I might need to tie this in a little bit. And so I might write a story of a day in the life as the bookkeeper working at Applicant Pro, who is a working mom. Cool. Now it's going to be more specific. Sarah is a bookkeeper at Applicant Pro and a working mom of 2 young children. Her day usually starts with blah, 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 blah. And so it just gives her a story. What I want is for my target persona to see themselves in that seat. Now, I could come up and say, what are our minimum requirements to be considered for this job? Now, clearly it's going to come back, well, I don't have them. Here are typical ones. So I would have to feed it in what our minimum requirements are. I might say, create a list of interview questions that I can use with my managers to determine minimum requirements for this job that they are looking for and what someone will need to learn in the first 90 days to be successful. Now you can see, again, I'm making the switch, right? I'm saying, all right, give me a list of interview questions because ChatGPT apologized to me and said, I don't have the specific job requirements for this job. My answer wasn't, oh, it's garbage. It was, okay, create a list of interview questions I could use to gather those requirements. If I then went and answered these questions or asked them of the manager and plugged it back in, I could then say, based off of the most awesome place for working moms to work, Applicant Pro, how do you think their managers would answer these questions, right? Again, this is not as good as actually having my managers answer the question, right? So now using this, I might say, create a list of minimum requirements. Now, what I would have actually done was gone and actually done, right? Ask the question, cloud it back in. I might then say, create a list of what it takes to be a great bookkeeper for a fast growth SaaS company with 10,000 clients and 300 employees. So this is going to give me a list of the qualities that are required. This is actually more important because you can teach somebody Excel, but some of these other things like analytical skills are a little bit harder. So I might want to include this in the ad. Now I can wrap it up. I can do something like write a quick overview of our working environment and our compelling benefits, including PTO and house cleaning. Now, most likely you're reading this going, this is crazy amount of content. Nobody would read an ad this long. And the answer is nobody would read an ad this long if it was a boring 10-page job description. That has nothing to do with them. But my target audience reads entire like series of books on vampires. So I know they do read and they like reading. The last one is I need a call to action for people who are excited about this job and want to apply for the end of my job ad. All right. So if you want to walk away with just one thing, this flow right here, if you cut out all this other stuff and just put headings, are you ready to join our team? Here's what it takes to be successful at this company in this job. Here are the minimum requirements. Here's a day in the life as our bookkeeper. Those are the headings I'd put in. If you publish that job ad right there that ChatGPT just wrote, it will look nothing like any job ad you've ever ran. It'll look nothing like any of your competitors' job ads, and it will get you 5 times more applicants without spending any money. How do I know this? Because I've written thousands of these ads using the same exact flow. The difference is I have ChatGPT to help me instead of paying an employee to do it. This is substantially faster. It used to take us an hour to write one job ad to get it this good. This takes me minutes. And so if you can see here, there was some back and forth. For us at Applicant Pro, I might need to interview the accounting firm owner and pull this information from them. Whereas if I'm doing it with my own team, I could just interview them. So I hope this makes sense as far as what I just went through. Now, you might say, okay, somebody wanted to know about how could AI help? So I might want to leave this and go open up a brand new chat because I'm going to stop talking about recruitment. Now, if I was back on this recruitment, I can do all kinds of stuff. How can you, or I might say something like, what are a list of 10 behavioral interview questions that I can use to interview people who apply for this job? Right? I could ask it for multiple choice screening questions to go in my applicant tracking system or in Indeed. I might have it give me a team feedback form, a list of feedback questions to help us shortlist the best candidates. I might have it write up an offer letter to send out to someone who we want to hire, and it could write me an offer letter. Now, again, I haven't given it a lot of backstory. And so I would need to potentially, this is again, vague prompt. So I'm getting back a vague answer. So now if I wanted to go from here and say, I'm going to fire up a new chat, I'm going to say, how can ChatGPT help accounting firm owners improve their speed and accuracy when doing audits for clients? Now, this goes back to, okay, well, as a blah, 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 I may not have that access to that information. Data analysis, documentation, predictive analytics, etc. Cool. I just want to go ahead and hit the internet and research use of ChatGPT as an AI assistant by accounting firms, accountants, when doing auditing. Now, again, auditing is a vague request. So if I wanted to get better information back, I would need to give a more specific request. Auditing a manufacturing company, auditing sales tax returns, auditing, et cetera, right? The more that I do, the more it will give me back a better answer, right? And so I can now say, come up of the top 10 ways I could help my team adjust their auditing So you can see at this point, instead of creating content, I'm actually brainstorming. I'm actually going back and forth with my buddy here, my audit assistance buddy, where I'm actually giving this backstory. Now, I didn't give it enough backstory. And so I might want to say, I have a team of 20 people. We have 1,000 clients we do audits for, blah, 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 blah. And that would give it more context to my backstory. But so it says, come up with a list of 10 ways that I can help my team adjust their auditing process and results using, we'll call this an approach, using ChatGPT. Now it's going to come up with 10 different ways. Now, at this point, I'm just getting ideas. I might only pick one of these, right? So I might pick one of these ideas of identify areas of risk or identify areas of improvement or improve accuracy or whatever. I might just pick one of these and say, what are the list of questions to interview my audit team to give you better context about our specific approach to performing audits for specific types of target clients. What do you think it's going to do? It's going to give me back a list of questions. What am I going to do with those questions? I'm going to go get on Zoom and interview my audit team. I could give it more specific things and say, create a list of specific interview questions to ask the team about, and I'm going to paste in streamline data analysis, right? Cool. Now it's going to give me a new list. How much time do you currently spend on data analysis during the audit process? What are the biggest challenges? How do you currently identify patterns? Blah, 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 blah. You see, this right here is I'm now in brainstorming mode. I started the call saying, no, I haven't used ChatGPT to help an accounting firm do audits. But now I'm going, oh gosh, well, if I just had an hour to interview a few people, I could plug that information in and then tell it to come up with a roadmap for using ChatGPT for our audit team to improve their approach. And it would give me back that knowledge using the context I already gave it. So you can see this right here is probably the premium example of how do I do that. Now, I would leave. I've got to go do the interview. So I'm going to send an email to my audit team, see if we can set up a Zoom call. And so now I can just leave that one there. And at any point, I can come back to it and jump back into it and say, hey, I'm back. Use the context above along with the transcript from my interviews with my audit team to help me brainstorm a process improvement project with ChatGPT for my team to implement. And then I would put in the transcript, right? I'd put in the transcript and it would make this more specific, right? Each of these, I would say, how would you use ChatGPT? How could an auditor use ChatGPT to define the scope and goals of the project? How could an auditor set up ChatGPT to analyze financial data? How could they use it to test sample data of audits? How could you integrate? So I'm asking it to tell me how to do it. Then I'm going to ask it for a list of interview questions. What would you need to know about our specific situation in order to help me make a more specific plan? It'll give me back a list of questions. I'll answer the questions. I'll feed it back in. And then I'll say, create me a specific plan. And so this right here, this back and forth, I hope at this point, I don't know if we're done. We're officially at our time limit. And so thank you guys so much for sticking around. Looks like we've got a few people still here. I would love to hear any feedback or questions that you have. Again, I'm going to pop back to my main slide. And so if you made it this far, congratulations. I'm going to assume it means you really, really, really care about solving this problem. And if that is your goal, if you absolutely want to solve it, this was the starting point. Whoops. Today was the starting point, not the ending point. I hope that you've just seen, okay, I need to think about it in a certain way. I need to understand it in a certain way. I do accept tips. I didn't charge for anybody to come to this. So if you want to Venmo me, I think today should have been worth as much as I tipped my daughter at Dutch Bros for giving me a coffee, but it's up to you. More importantly, if you want to take this challenge, I'm about ready to launch I think it's a 40-day challenge of how to use AI to help your accounting firm. I believe right now it's going to be free. Most likely it'll be tip-based. Pay me what you want. Shoot me an email to Ryan@Refer.io to get signed up for it. I would love to hear any feedback you have. Love or hate mail is accepted. Shoot me an email to Ryan@Refer. Otherwise, thank you so much for showing up here. Thanks for giving me an hour and a half of your time. I hope that it was valuable for you. If it wasn't, shoot me an email and tell me what I could have done to make it better. Thanks so much for attending today, and we'll talk to you later. See you guys later.